Hey, Shalom Akia. First and foremost, give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Rachak Kudash. Double honors under the elders, Apostle Millstone, the elders of Millstone, and of course, peace and blessings under the hopeful elect. The sincere servants of Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, serving him in truth and sincerity. Yes, on the brother Chayaba from GMS Plaintables camp. Come back with another lesson to the Spirit. His lesson be based off of, get straight right into it. It says 2 Ezra chapter 8 and 1. And he answered me, saying, The Most High hath made this world for many, but the world to come for few. And of course, this is going into 2 Ezra. So I read that again. It says, and he answered, so 2 Ezra chapter 8 and 1. And he answered me, saying, The Most High hath created this world, earth like it. And he answered me, saying, The Most High hath made this world for many, but the world will come for few. Exactly. So we understand how Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, who the world ignorantly calls God and Jesus, he has created this world for few. Or really, the world to come for few, to better put it. Because as we know, we're living in Esau's world. We can get two chapters before, it goes into 2 Ezra chapter 6 and 9. It says, for Esau, so 2 Ezra chapter 6 and 9, it says, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. Yes, right now we're living in Esau's world. And Jacob's world, it says, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So the next world to come is Jacob's world. And of course, Esau and Jacob, of course, going back onto Genesis. Of course, Esau and Jacob being enemies. Esau being the so-called white man. And of course, Jacob being the so-called, or today, you'll look, or they'll be known as so-called blacks, Native Americans, Latinos. And as well, our people have been scattered amongst these other nations, pursuant to Deuteronomy chapter 28 and 64. So going back to 2 Ezra chapter 8 and 1, it says, and he answered me, saying, The Most High hath made this world for many, but the world to come for few. Exactly, meaning the world to come, which is Jacob's world, is only made for few. Which ultimately, it all links up. Again, Jacob's world, the world to come, the kingdom of heaven, Yahushua's kingdom. It all links up to the same thing, which again is only prepared for a few, which is the elect of the nation of Israel. The scriptures go into, the elect, the predestined, how basically, the Lord will only save the elect, the Lord will only save the elect of the nation of Israel. Only the elect of the nation of Israel will receive salvation. To get real quick, this is Matthew chapter 22 and 14. It says, For many are called, but few are chosen. There you have it. So many are called, but few are chosen. And ultimately that even concerns the truth. Many are called, but few are chosen. Meaning, it is some who come into the truth, but ultimately they fall out. And ultimately we don't want to be a part of that crowd. We don't want to be a part of those individuals. We want to be a part of the ones who endure unto the end through Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. So to read again, it says in Matthew chapter 22 and at 14, it says, For many are called, but few are chosen. Yeah, we want to be those chosen ones. And ultimately, we don't know if we're chosen. We don't know if we are a part of the elect. But as the scriptures say, we make our calling and election sure. We put on as the elect. We believe that we're part of the elect. And, ultimately, we don't know if we are part of the elect. But the point is that we have to believe that we are. Because, with believing, we put on the works as the elect. We make... we strive to make our calling and election sure. Or as somebody put, we make our calling election sure by doing Du'ala Yahweh Bashmiel Shai, which is ultimately what the elect are written to do. The will of the Lord, Yahweh Bashmiel Shai. So it says 2 Ezra chapter 8 and 2, I would tell thee a similitude, Esdras, as when thou askest the earth, it shall say unto thee that it giveth much mold, whereof the earthen vessels are made. But little dust that gold cometh of, even so is a course of this present world. Exactly. So, right now, currently, let's look up how many people are on the planet Earth, 2025. So it says in 2025, the world population is estimated to be around 8.2 to 8.3 billion people. 8.3 billion people. That's what it rounds up to. And you can see the world population right here. Guess what? This is only for, or what, the majority of these people, the world to come isn't for them. Ultimately, again, because the world to come is only for the elect of the nation of Israel. Get real quick. Matthew 24 and 30. It says, we can start at verse 29. It says, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. It says, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, which is Yahushua, of course. It says, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. So why are all the tribes of the earth mourn if, the second coming of the Lord is so anticipated by everybody? Why are all the tribes of the earth going to mourn? If, this is the most anticipated event, basically, in the world. Again, it's because it shows you that what Yahushua is, with him coming for the world to come with Jacob's world, obviously, that's not what the majority of people on this planet Earth want. Ultimately, they want a forwarding of this kingdom. They want the forwarding of this world, Esau's world. Ultimately, these people don't want Yahushua to come back. What they want, JC to come back. Well, Cesare Borgia to come back, which, that image is predicated upon Esau in his kingdom. Of course, they imagine ultimately, again, when people think about the second coming, they picture Cesare Borgia, the complete opposite of Yahushua, and of course what Yahushua represents. It says in Matthew chapter 24 and 30, to read again, it says, and then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall the tribes of the earth, it's like it says, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Exactly, because the majority of the earth is going to mourn. Only the elect of the nation of Israel are going to be rejoicing. Because as the scriptures say, or you can, as the scriptures go into, will ultimately, again, only the elect of the nation of Israel will see salvation. And what will the salvation take place? Ultimately, is going to be Yahushua coming back, as it says in verse 31, and he shall send his angels with the sound of a great trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from the end of heaven to the other. Exactly, because Yahushua is going to be sending his angels to gather up the elect of the nation of Israel. Using what? Of course, the chariots, so-called UFOs, or what, so-called UAPs, as the world deems it, the chariots of the Lord. These are going to be the vehicles that are delivering the elect of the nation of Israel. what ultimately, these heavenly vehicles are able to do, of course, miraculous things, things that completely bypass the laws of physics, showing you that again, these chariots, of course, or these heavenly vehicles, they're literally extraterrestrial. They're not of this world. So go back on the second Ezra chapter 8 and 2, and ultimately what? Before I continue reading, a lot of people are gonna die, man. A lot of people will perish. Again, only the elect will really, we're really concerned about the elect, but we understand how, around the world, the Lord will reserve the heathen, because again, we understand that everybody that's left within Babylon the Great will perish, because we know with Babylon the Great, which is America, will be destroyed by nuclear fire, as the scriptures go into. But of course, around the world, scriptures also go into how what? We're going to have captives, we're going to have slaves in the kingdom of heaven. Those who put us in captivity should go into captivity under the Israelites. So of course, whether there's going to be many that are left around the world. Just we know that without a doubt, within America, anybody who's left in here will perish. So ultimately, we're seeking for our deliverance, meditating upon how, of course, the just will be saved. Which, of course, we hope to be a part of that remnant, being saved to escape the destruction of Babylon the Great. So it says, 2 chapter 8 and 2, I will tell thee a similitude, Esdras, as when thou askest the earth, it shall say unto thee, that it giveth much mold whereof earthen vessels are made, but little dust that cometh, like it says, but little dust that gold cometh of. Even so is the course of this present world, exactly. And this world is filled with mold. It says, whereof earthen vessels are made. But what? It says, but little dust that gold cometh of. Yeah, in that little dust of gold, of course, are the elect of the nation of Israel. Because again, we're a few compared to the rest of the world. And I'm saying we again because, again, we're a part of the hopeful elect. I hope to be a part of that remnant. I hope to be a part of the 144,000. Of course, and the same thing, for you brothers watching. A few sisters out there, that desire to be a part of that elect. As brothers within the truth, as prophets, we desire to be a part of that 144,000, the governing body of the nation of Israel. It says, 2 Ezra chapter 8 and 3, there be many created, but few shall be saved. There you have it. Read again, it says 2 Ezra chapter 8 and 3. There be many created, but few shall be saved. Yet to show you, again, that the world population, many are created. You have, currently right now, again, you have what, 8.26 billion people upon the planet Earth. And hey, guess what? Only a few will be saved, according to the scriptures. According to Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. And hey, that's the truth. Only thing we can hope again is that we're a part of that few. To get this real quick. This is Matthew chapter 24 and 13. It says, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. So again, the point is that we have to endure unto the end. Of course, enduring unto the end is what's important. Because when you go into the world, it's a common thing for people to believe that because they accepted JC, as the people put it, into their heart, they're automatically saved. Which no. That's, of course, that's not how it is, Yeah, it is one thing to be called, which is what, to receive the truth, They receive our calling, they receive our duties. Of course, what we have to do for Yahweh Shemi Shai, which is what to serve him and to do his will. But it's another thing to endure unto the end. Of course, what to do what he said to do unto the end. Of course, running that race is like, somebody telling you to run this many miles or, to do this amount of laps. Again, you receive the instruction, but, it starts when you actually start running. And boy, the most important part is at the end, because, that's when you're the most tired, that's when, of course, you're at the end of the race, but the point is to finish it. So what, the truth is the same way. But even Apostle Paul likened the truth onto a race. Let's go ahead and get that. It says, 1 Corinthians chapter 9 and 24, know ye not that they which run in a race run all? But one receiveth the prize, so run they may obtain. Yeah, so the point is that we have to run to obtain. Meaning we have to put in the work to obtain. We have to do our duties for Yahweh Shemi Shai. And ultimately we understand how, it's not a thing of works. Ultimately, it's of Yahweh Shemi Shai. It's of Yahweh Shemi Shai first and foremost. It's of faith and of works. But even that, again, is ultimately up to the Lord, because as the scriptures say, faith is a gift. And ultimately is a gift and a blessing for us to have the faith, and of course, to have the Spirit to be able to do this work, to have the Holy Spirit. Because again, that's only given unto a select few. And it's only given unto a select few, ultimately to endure unto the end, serving Yahweh Shemi Shai. And again, ultimately, that's what we want to be a part of. So to circle back to the point, it says, 2 chapter 8, 1, and he answered me, saying, the Most High hath made this world for many, but the world to come for few. This is Matthew 7 and 13. It says, enter ye in at the strait gate. For wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Yeah, so scriptures, this is Yahushua speaking, by the way, this is a red letter. It says, enter ye in at the strait gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Exactly, so we know straight, or let's read verse 14, it says, because straight is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. Exactly. So the Lord's only dealing with the few. The Lord's not dealing with the majority. That's why only a few can understand this truth. It's not about how big your congregation is and not about how many members you have. What it's about, ultimately, is about the elect. And we understand that the elect are few compared to the rest of the world. So, hey, we automatically expect, of course, our congregation to be small. We don't get hundreds of thousands of views or tens and tens of thousands of views like some of these other camps. Ultimately, hey, that's because again this word is only for few. The true word, of course, Yahweh Shemi Shai's word, it's only for few. And and even though Esau might be playing with the numbers and playing with the views that our videos receive, hey, it still has a point that this word is only for few. The truth. So read again, it says Matthew chapter 7 and 13, enter ye in at the strait gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Yeah, so there's many people going through the broad gate, the wide and broad gate, which that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Exactly. So the gate onto destruction is broad, because again, Ultimately, if you're not serving Yahweh Bashim Yashai, then you're going towards that broad gate, that broad and wide gate, which, you can only do two things: either serve Yahweh Bashim Yashai or serve Satan. Which again, the majority of the world are servants of Satan. So guess what? They're going to receive the fruits of serving Satan, which of course is destruction. So it says, Matthew 7:14, because straight is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. Again, so in the point still, the truth is exclusive unto the elect, and the elect are few. It says, because straight is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. Yeah, so it's a narrow path to be in this truth. Ultimately being in this truth is like being on a tightrope. It's easy to fall if you lean a little bit to the left, too much to the left. Just a little bit. If you lean a little bit too much to the left or lean a little bit too much to the right, guess what? You fall off. And that's how the truth is. The truth is like walking on eggshells, showing you again how serious and important it is for us to serve Yahweh Bashim Yashai, constantly praying, of course, constantly fasting, of course, doing what you have to do for Yahweh Bashim Yashai. Doing this work, of course, doing what we're commanded to do. God, so I believe it's a point. Again, to circle it back, it says 2 chapter 8:1, and he answered me, saying, the world is like it says, Most High hath made this world for many, but the world to come for few. And again, we hope to be a part of that few, the inheritors of the kingdom of heaven, because Yahushua will be given the kingdom of heaven. But we know through inheritance, Yahushua is going to be passed down the kingdom of heaven, of course, onto his elect. To give one last scripture, this is Revelation chapter 2 and 26. It says, and he that overcometh and keepeth my words unto the end, to him will I give power over the nations. It says, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, as the vessels of a potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I received of my Father. See? And you can get that Psalm chapter 2, where it goes into how Yahushua was given the inheritance of the heathen. Of course, so Yahushua is going to pass down that inheritance onto the elect of the nation of Israel. Of course, what? So, and of course, with the 144,000, of course, going down onto the rest of the nation of Israel. But the point is that we want to overcome. And for those who overcome, again, they're gonna receive at that inheritance. And that's what we want to be a part of. It says, Revelation chapter 3:11, behold, I come quickly, hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. Him that overcometh will I make a pillar. So this Yahushua speaking. We just read again. So this Yahushua speaking. It says Revelation chapter 3:11. Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. Him that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my power. And he shall go no more out. And I will write upon him the name of my power, and the name of the city of my power, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from my power, and I will write upon him my new name. And we know, of course, name goes into reputation and status. So we're going to be completely, renewed. Of course, having, of course, the scriptures go into the new incorruptible bodies. But Yahweh Tazah, when we're beamed up into those chariots, we're going to immediately receive those new bodies, because we're going to have to be translated as soon as that beam hits us, but ultimately to be able to step foot in those chariots. if we step foot in those chairs right now, what ultimately, the flesh will perish. We couldn't bear, the power of a chariot. So obviously, we would have to be translated, especially or standing before Yahushua. Of course, when all the elect meet in the air with Yahushua, we would have to be translated, to be a part of that. Well, and the scriptures go into how, we're going to receive the second covenant. Which the second covenant, of course, is having the law, statutes, commandments written within our hearts, which heart goes in the Hebrew meaning lab, or the Hebrew word for heart being lab in the Hebrew, meaning mind. So ultimately, again, we're going to be completely renewed. And ultimately, the scriptures are also going to how Yahushua is going to crown us. So our reputation and status are going to be completely renewed. The scriptures go into how we're going to be kings and priests. What the scriptures go into how we're going to be kings and priests. So again, we're going to be completely renewed. It says Revelation chapter 3 and 13. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. God, so I believe it's a point. Those are brothers that edified. Yahweh Bashmi Al Shai, Bashmi Kakodash Shalom.